Tanshe and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Sav Jonesa. We have an update now on a story we brought you yesterday. The Wendigo First Nations Council issued a statement today on behalf of the family of Jenna Ostberg, who died in Thunder Bay, Ontario under tragic circumstances on December 30th. The 21-year-old Ostberg was found lifeless in a home after it took 3 calls to 911 before Thunder Bay police responded. In that statement, the family fears their daughter is the latest victim of inadequate and unjust policing services received by First Nation women in Thunder Bay. Ontario's Special Investigations Unit is now investigating. The family is asking for privacy as they grieve their loss and await the results of a coroner's report. It's news no one wants to receive before the holidays. On December 22nd, police were called to a home in the 3000 block of 6th Avenue in Regina. When officers arrived to the scene, they found 39-year-old Dallas Paul Iron to be the victim of a stabbing. Officers administered first aid, but Iron succumbed to his injuries shortly after. Iron is the son of Clarence Iron, APTN's play-by-play announcer for Hockey Night in Canada in Cree broadcasts. 46-year-old Trevor Roy Sunshine was arrested in relation to the stabbing. He's been charged with second-degree murder. Sunshine made his first court appearance, and his case has now been adjourned until January 16th. National Ribbon Skirt Day became a community event in a Nova Scotia First Nation yesterday. As Angel Moore reports, it was celebrated with traditional Mi'kmaq culture.
Students, teachers, and community leaders gathered at the Sabaganagati First Nation School Gym for a round dance to help celebrate the second National Ribbon Skirt Day. Guest speaker Roberta Hibbert sews ribbon skirts and shared her teachings.
Yeah, so ribbon skirts to me represent coming home. It's coming home to my culture, my family, my language. It's reconnecting. This is an opportunity for many of us to learn about our culture through our identity and our expression of culture. For me, it's important because it's very emotional, where I grew up without my culture, without my language, without my family, because my father was part of the 60s Scoop.
Al Michael teaches the Mi'kmaq language at the Ilnu Zibuk Gina Mugogum, or LSK school, and explained the meaning of the ribbon skirt.
A ribbon skirt is a symbol of friendship. The ribbons and the fabric are not ancestral to Mi'kmaq, but we've embraced them as our own. And we wear our ribbon skirts to show that we are Indigenous, that we are part of Turtle Island, and we are proud to represent that wherever we go.
The event was to honor Isabella Kulak of the Cody First Nation in Saskatchewan, who was shamed for wearing a ribbon skirt to school. Grade 1 student Melanie Cook was proud to help celebrate the day.
Because the culture.
A traditional Mi'kmaq dance, the Gojawa, was performed by 13-year-old students, including Carice Julian, to inspire youth to dance.
Pretty good to teach younger kids about their culture and all of their traditions.
Michael has been teaching Gojawa to students for the last 2 years and says the dance has become part of the school.
Today was about ribbon skirts, but we also incorporated the Gojawa dance, which is a dance done by Mi'kmaq people since time immemorial. It's a dance that shows your strength and endurance. It's not for the weak-hearted.
Greg Marr is vice principal of the LSK school. He says community events promote culture and traditions.
One of the things I think about is how easy it was to take a lot of our culture and our traditions away. And the difficult journey for our people is to kind of get all that stuff back, and that's the tough part. But here at LSK, we instill the culture, the language, and their identity in many of their teachings. So that's off to a good start.
Hibbert says the day was emotional.
So for me, being here as a guest, teaching ribbon skirts, but also teaching essential sewing, it gives honor to my grandmother, who loved sewing during residential school. So it's full circle for me. It's part of my healing to be here today, to share my teachings, share my story with my community.
Angel Moore, APTN National News, Sabaganagati, Mi'kmaq Nation, Nova Scotia.
Yukon government is looking to bolster Arctic security by investing $100,000 into a Yukon Arctic Security Advisory Council. The 5-member council will provide independent advice to the territory on security and defense. It's made up of experts in fields like Indigenous governance, Arctic sovereignty, and the military. Council Chair Ken Coates says one issue impacting the territory's security is a lack of infrastructure in its rural communities.
We're getting there. The internet is faster now than it was a little while ago. The road system's actually pretty good. Airfields, a little bit here and there. Electrical system's not as reliable. So we're not there yet on the community's ability to be part of this whole process. So I hope we get there soon.
We have to take a quick break, but when we return, a look back on some big stories from 2023. Stick around. Welcome back. In Quebec, the first ever First Nations expedition reached the finish line. Unprecedented wildfires ravaged the province, and the Algonquin community of Kitsisakik finally gets hooked up to the power grid. Here's Maricela Amador with the stories that made news in 2023.
Cheers erupted as snowmobilers reached the end of their near supernatural journey. The 17-day expedition for reconciliation Joyce's principal, and Missing and Murder Indigenous Women covered a total of 4,275 kilometers of difficult terrain in ancestral territories including Atikamekw, Anishinaabe, EU, Naskapi, and Innu nations in Quebec.
C'est une étape que j'ai vécue. Et la suite, ça va être... J'espère que c'est le pardon la suite. Ça ne passe pas aussi les peines qu'on a vécues. C'est un cheminement de guérison que j'ai vécu.
After forest fires broke out at the end of May, thousands were forced to evacuate, but some members from the Atikamekw First Nation of Opitsewan decided to stay behind and protect their ancestral homes at all costs.
Ici, c'est un tison qu'on a oublié. La motoneige aussi a passé au feu, puis il y en a un autre plus loin là-bas.
It's a day Jules Chachai, a traditional chief, won't soon forget. His community, surrounded by fire. It was ahead of them, behind them, almost blinding.
On est parti avec nos roses, on a fait partie des ponts, puis on a commencé à arroser un peu partout là-bas. Il y a le maïs sur le bord du chemin, là, puis une bonne partie de la nuit. J'ai quitté ici à 5 heures du matin, épuisé. Là.
Chachai and the owners of other cottages in the area banded together, but they didn't have much to fight with. Here, he shows us what he called his defense system when the fires broke out.
Tout ce que j'avais, c'est ça, puis mes chaudières d'eau. J'ai fait des élastiques pour pas perdre mon eau, mes couvertes dessus. Je remplissais mes chaudières avec ça. J'ai fait des élastiques pour... parce que quand on met ça après le pick-up en arrière, ça brasse, puis si on met pas ça, il reste quasiment plus d'eau après, quand on arrive sur place.
It was a 45-day fight to save his home and the 20 other neighboring chalets. Over the weeks, reinforcements arrived from Manawan, Wimontashi, and Opitsewan.
Go! Move those legs, come on!
After their close brush with Quebec forest fires, 32 Algonquins from Barrier Lake decided to learn to fight fires themselves.
There's a lot of passion going on at the same time because people love the land, and these guys are used to the land, they're used to the bugs or anything, and so that's the concept here.
Warren Papatsi, an Algonquin from Barrier Lake, was in Gatineau as fires approached his community of Rapid Lake, Quebec, 270 kilometers north of Ottawa. He and 31 other community members traveled to Mont-Tremblant to learn what it takes to fight back.
They're very eager, they're very proud to be here, they really want to learn. They feel privileged to be here, and they want to prove to their communities that they could fight these fires. So it's really fun to see.
The trainees also included one woman.
Take it off. Go put her on over there.
I wanted to be a part of the firefighting and, protecting our family land, our cabins. There's so much history out on the territory, and I have kids, and I wanted to be safe for them.
With all of the fires, and we can't get our stories to our audience, and we have lots of folks reaching out what's going on, and they don't even know the full impact of what's going on in Canadian news right now.
After the federal government passed a law that would force Meta, the company behind Facebook, to pay publishers, the tech giant blocked news in Canada.
For small publications, that could be very detrimental.
And it was. Mohawk publisher and editor Greg Horn told APTN News in August that he saw a considerable drop in page views within a few weeks of the block, and he was not alone. Many local media outlets across Canada reported similar declines in engagement and audience reach.
My aunties, cousins, neighbors on the res, all of those folks, people that I'm not related to, but I'm connected to through my community, they're all on Facebook. So for us to have that taken away specifically, I think it really hurts. It really hurts us more as Indigenous people.
Maricela Amador, APTN National News, Montreal.
In the Yukon, our reporter Sarah Connors gives us a recap of the top news stories to come out of the territory last year.
We started off the year on a political note. In January, Ranch Pillay was sworn in as the territory's 10th premier. He was the only person to put his name forward after former Premier Sandy Silver announced he was stepping down as leader of the Yukon Liberal Party in the fall of 2022.
Our team is strong, we are passionate, committed, and dedicated to serving all Yukoners as we advance the territory in the years ahead.
Sticking with politics, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau paid a visit to the territory the following month. Just days before his arrival, NORAD shot down an unidentified object which landed in north-central Yukon. That object has never been recovered.
Our focus right now is on recovering it. Obviously, there is much analysis going on at the highest levels of NORAD in both Canada and the United States to try and understand more, to facilitate in the location of the object and to understand better and be able to answer the questions that Canadians have.
Also on the agenda was a celebration for the 50th anniversary of the document Together Today. The document is credited for leading 11 of the 14 First Nations in the territory to settle their land claims agreements.
But what this anniversary shows here for First Nations in Yukon is that we can get there, and not just here, but everywhere.
It's heartbreaking. As a parent, you put trust in public servant, and I feel like it's failed.
In April, our bureau broke a story on an Indigenous teenager who claimed RCMP members in Whitehorse used excessive force while arresting her. Later that month, Yukon RCMP said the Alberta Serious Incident Response Team, or ACERT, was investigating an incident that took place that same evening. There's been no word yet on that investigation.
We understand it's frustrating for the family. You know, their family member is missing. They want them found.
This spring, we also brought you a story on the disappearance of Ramona Peter. The 40-year-old Casca woman was last seen in her home community of Ross River on April 21st. Now 8 months into her disappearance, her whereabouts are still unknown.
My feet are back on my soil, so.
The return of Sharman Smith, a Carcross-Tagish First Nation citizen, also made headlines this past spring. Smith was charged with trafficking the stimulant cat in 2016 on her way back to Canada. She spent the next 7 years detained in Turkey.
I need recovery is what I need. And it's an emotional recovery, emotional journey that I'll be on next.
Perhaps the biggest story to come out of the Yukon this year was the evacuation of 2 First Nations communities due to wildfires. In August, Mayo and Old Crow were evacuated in the face of approaching wildfires. The fires did not reach either community, and residents were able to return shortly after.
There are still children whose names we do not know, children whose cause of death we do not know. And we do not know where the majority of these children have been buried.
Just days before the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, officials in Yukon announced the discovery of 15 potential graves at the former site of the Chutla Residential School. It was the first search to take place in the Northern Territories.
This is going to go for some time, help a lot of people. They now have the answers, which is really important.
The effectiveness of the emergency shelter in downtown Whitehorse was a hot topic this fall. In late September, disturbances caused by shelter users forced the owners of a popular bakery to temporarily close its doors. That closure ruffled feathers in the legislature, prompting the government to promise changes, like increased safety measures for the downtown core. It's still unclear whether the bakery will reopen its doors.
In 3, 2, 1, go! Have fun!
Ending on a high note, in November, we spoke to an incredible elder out of Lower Post, British Columbia, near the Yukon border. Jerry Porter fulfilled a lifelong wish to go skydiving while visiting Auckland, New Zealand. Now 3 years into what he calls a sobriety journey, the elder is happy to be living life to the fullest.
Doing what I want to do is to be sober and be the best grandpa around.
That's your 2023 Yukon Year in Review. Sarah Connors, APTN National News.
We look at a recap of Nunavut's 2023 next, Canada's most northern jurisdiction.
Looking back at 2023, Nunavut started the year off on a high note as Team Nunavut netted its first male hockey gold medal during the Arctic Winter Games. In March, unionized workers for the Iqaluit Housing Authority took to the picket line in what would become Nunavut's longest strike, which would end over 130 days later with a 5-year collective agreement.
We had quite the battle on our hands for 136 days. Our members held the line really well. They knew what their worth was. They were sharing their stories. They were using their voices. I was really proud of them. We're talking mostly young workers. So this was the longest one we've had in Nunavut.
Former priest Eric Dieger, who was previously convicted of sexually abusing over 24 Inuit children in the 70s and 80s, saw 8 more charges for historical allegations of abuse dating between 2011 and 2015. He made his first appearance in an Iqaluit court in June. As of this writing, Dieger is still looking for legal counsel. In one of the biggest stories of the year, Nunavut's land claims organization, Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated, announced at the end of March that they were investigating claims of fraudulent Inuit identity by Amira and Nadia Gill. This would culminate in the 2 sisters and their mother, Karima Manji, each being charged with 2 counts of fraud. The initial court date for the trial was October 30th. It was adjourned until the new year. In November, Nunavut's Kivalak region was hit by severe weather, causing power outages throughout southwest Nunavut. Arviat in particular saw the worst of it, resulting in no power for much of the community for over 4 days, as well as the death of a young man. The end of the year saw the retirement of Nunavut Senator Dennis Patterson, who served as senator for 14 years. Trevor Wright, APTN National News, Iqaluit.
We have to step aside one last time, but we will see you when we return. Welcome back. Time now for a photo of the day. Christopher Clark provides us with today's photo, an idyllic scene from Sandy Bar, located near Norway House Cree Nation in northern Manitoba. Thanks, Christopher. Remember, you can submit photos to share@aptn.ca if you want to share a picture with the rest of Turtle Island. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. It'll be -7 in St. John's and Charlottetown. It'll be -17 in Nain and -15 in Cartwright. -10 in Quebec City, -4 in Montreal. Toronto will be 0 and North Bay will be -7. -11 in Timmins and -17 in Big Trout Lake. Churchill will be -27 with some sun and -18 in God's Lake. -5 in Gimli, -12 in Barons River. Yorkton will be -10 and -6 in North Battleford. -26 in Stony Rapids, -13 in Buffalo Narrows. -20 in High Level, -16 in Fort McMurray. It'll be +2 in Medicine Hat, -8 in Edmonton. +6 in Vancouver, +1 in Quenzel. -20 in Fort Nelson, -3 in Prince George. -31 in Old Crow and -20 in Watson Lake. -26 in Yellowknife, -34 in Norman Wells. Tuktoyaktuk is -35 and Sax Harbor is -27. Chesterfield is -28 and Cambridge Bay -27. Resolute is -30 and Agulik is -24. January is a time when people are making New Year resolutions, but for youth in Saskatchewan, it is about making new memories. APTN's Rachel May has more on what children are learning about to start the new year.
For many, Wanuskewin is a place to learn about the rich history of the prairies. For senior interpretive guide Jessie Mulba, it's a place to shape young minds.
I've had so many really cool experiences, especially with children, of them learning something new for the first time, or they're reconnecting with their culture where they may not have that experience through traditional schooling, right? So it is a different way of learning, and it's so beautiful to see kids interact and learning with hands-on learning as well.
For many, Wanuskewin is a place to learn about the rich history of the prairies. For senior interpretive guide Jessie Mulba, it's a place to shape young minds. Wanuskewin's annual January Break program offers children an opportunity to explore the Indigenous history of the area firsthand with activities such as teepee teachings.
So teepee teachings, we built an 8-foot Plains Cree teepee, and those teepee teachings were gifted to us by Elder Mary Lee.
Participants of teepee teachings learn the significance of the teepee while linking subjects that they learn about in school, such as social studies, science, and math. Although there's a lot of benefits for children, Mulba says that not just kids can benefit from a visit to Wanuskewin.
We have learning opportunities and we have different experiences for everybody. Everyone is going to get something different out of coming to Wanuskewin. So if you're really interested in art, again, Indigenous culture and art go hand in hand. We have our artist in residence here, Kevin Pies, that you can come visit. And we also have our 2 galleries that are opened right now from past artists in residence as well. So we have Holly Tennant and Marcy Friesen. They have their exhibits up as well. If you're interested in archaeology, we have a lot of information about archaeology here, and even about our bison. We do have a conservation herd of real-life bison you can see.
With 7 kilometers of trails, guided tours, and teepee sleepovers, Mulba hopes that families come to learn about the Northern Plains. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
That's all we have for your APTN National News this beautiful Friday evening. I'm Sav Jonesa, and thank you for joining us tonight. Take care.